welcome. Season 3, episode 4, we believe-ish. But we'll go with that. We'll go with that, even if we double up, right?
We'll go with that. Yeah.
Very salubrious surroundings you have behind you today.
Yeah. This is our presentation room. Meeting room. Yeah, we do. I say presentation. We very, very rarely present. I'm sure they do some other serious stuff here at sometimes, but this is the room that we come into to do mindfulness, to do some workshops, to have some fun, do some connections. There's a leaderboard at the back where they do stuff around the week and they get points. So that becomes very competitive at different points in the week and then the month. But yeah, this is a nice.
Are the staff part of the leaderboard?
No. Well, unless we are short numbers and some of the staff kind of fill in, but not part of it as a whole group. That's an interesting one. I wonder.
So could you put together some tasks whereby the staff are part of the competition?
I mean, that could get really competitive. A couple of ex-professional footballers. We have some people.
Well, it doesn't have to be football, does it, either?
No, it doesn't.
It could be stuff
Okay, I'm writing that down right now. That's a good one. I love being inclusive. So yes, I think that's a great idea. We did a fun day there during the international break and the staff came in and it was lovely. It was like it's probably an obvious thing. They got to hear and see kind of the staff in a different light. So we played some rounders, we did some ultimate frisbee, we did some karaoke, we did a photo challenge, and we had staff members in each of the teams, and it's just a different, kind of a fun vibe instead of it being the kind of, not that this is like ever overly rigid here, but it's kind of going from the role of being my coach or the fitness coach or something to now going into those other roles. So it's good. We should do it more often, to be honest.
We did a session yesterday with a load of pathway managers on our topic that we've talked about before, on release and deselection of players, right? And we had a guy on from the States who was like director of player development for one of the Major League Baseball teams, and he used a lovely quote: "The player resides within the person." And how actually, I know I'm stealing that. I think his quote was, "The player resides within the man." He used to have it on the wall within the baseball team. But the player resides within the person. It's such a nice quote because we're not the player if you're an athlete. You're more than the sum of the part of what you do from a performance perspective. Yeah. And I think that's great from a staff perspective if you can then bring that out as well.
I love that. And interestingly, in some of these, like sometimes they're mindfulness and we do more kind of traditional mindfulness stuff. Other times they're just like connection moments and points. And what I've realized, and we're trying to encourage that more around kind of the bigger parts of their identity. It's like there's some amazing musicians on this team. There's some fantastic artists and singers, and we have some people who are really talented at some other things that a couple of people on the team didn't even know that they could do these things. And then they kind of hide them and kind of, oh, no, I'm here to do football, So yeah, very cool.
Yeah. Anyway, we digress. Funny that.
Standard.
So tell us what's perked your interest this week.
Okay. So I've always had a little bit of a kind of antenna raise when I hear, oh, we're like a family. Now, I do hear that a lot from players and have in this setting this year, last year, but even the wider sports world where people go, oh, it's like just like my family. And I wonder, because it bothers me. I had a great family, there's no issue there for me, but I wonder with the different families and setups where people come from, the image or perception that family isn't a warm, safe, encouraging, challenging, but supportive environment, then are we assuming that maybe whoever comes up with that then enforces that on the rest of the group, like we're like a family, and then it becomes a little bit of maybe conformity that ends up happening, or there's a tar brush on where we're a family, and how does that hinder performance and people's feeling about what they can share and not share? Just loads of little thoughts. And Suzanne Brown had a great quote this week. She said, are we creating, or can you create, a family-like culture in your business? She referenced, and obviously in our world in sport. So I wonder what your thoughts on that are.
Well, by reference to that would suggest that your mum lives 3.5 hours away and you barely ever talk to her. Is that Like, is that the definition of family? Because that's my definition of family, right? And I think that's probably what you're alluding to, is that everybody's version is different. But therefore, is she suggesting, not Suzanne directly, because I'm sure others would do as well, that the model ideals of a family are what are going to be helpful for performance? Is that what she suggested, you think? Because you're right, the reality versus ideal might be somewhat different.
Yeah, I think there's and maybe this is the point of reference for when I hear it from players or sometimes coaches in the sporting world, is that it's just a point of reference for people, and it's a commercial family. It's your typical, I don't even know what a typical family would be in this modern day and age. So when people say, I feel like I'm in a family, are they saying, no matter what, we'll get through this and we have each other to depend on that? And what makes it different from them calling it a team or a group of great friends, and if they call it a teammate and don't call it a family, are they saying that I don't feel that I'm that close to you? So is it just around closeness, or the amount of time they spend together, where they reference from their teenage years, if again they're maybe not possibly at home at that time, where they're spending all their time here training and doing all that? We're like a family. I think it's an interesting thing to explore. And when I have heard coaches saying, we want to be a family, we're a family, this is my family, what does that really put onto the team? And what do we hope they get out of that? Because it'd just be that person's perception of what a family is and the functions of it and the safety of it.
Yeah. And the more you talk about it there, I think the harder it is to put that label on it. And I think the richness of those conversations are probably not linked to a family, but what are the ideals that us, for a group of people coming together, should hold? E.g., radical candor, I've got your back, high support, high challenge, whatever it might, those. So kind of pulling out the key things that ultimately probably inform your values and beliefs. And those values and beliefs that you then hold together as a group of people may not be family-like.
Yeah, that's a great point and good summary of those. Do you think they're using that to encompass all of what you've said, but they maybe didn't have the language or knowledge of what those areas are? The descriptors of what I'm trying to get to. And is that a bigger educational piece where there's more clarity? It's like, again, we've discussed this before when we do talk about values, but actually, if we've got a player from Japan and we've got a player from America and we've got a player from people from all these different parts of the world, then discipline as a value means completely different, and they will have experienced those differently. So, I just think it's interesting. I know it goes back to words, and I always have I zoom in on those, on certain words, but I think that caught me this week.
Yeah, there's Owen Eastwood book Belonging that I think is really helpful to start to unpick a load of these different things, and how so if people have not come across Owen Eastwood's work, he's a sports lawyer by trade with a Maori descent from New Zealand, although I think half of his family are English randomly. And he talks about different environments that he's been in, and one of them was South African cricket, and how different people had different understanding of the heritage, the background. I think it was Hassim Amla who was the first Muslim cricketer to play, and therefore he didn't necessarily have the same traditional kind of South African values that many of the other white Christian South African players did. So they spent time trying to unpick that, and then I think he did the same with South African rugby, and looking at the term Springboks and the fact that Springboks as a term means different things for different people, and how they kind of unpick some of that. And that, I think, is what brought people together once they've explored the family narrative at the top and brought it to life. And I think those are the real conversations that, it's harder if you've got little kids. If you're a coach thinking, right, well, what does this now mean to me? It's probably harder if you've got little ones, but you can still talk about some values and things that, that make us a group of people that come together.
Yeah. And even staying on the own Eastwood, he does, well, he's doing a number of different podcasts, but we're listening to one the other day with Simon Mundy. And again, he was talking about the unpicking that similar thread with the England team and with Gareth, and seeing, I guess, linking your nice quote from earlier on about the player resides in the person. That's the kind of nice link, isn't it, of who are the people, what kind of backgrounds are you coming from, and how can we come together? And that kind of, without saying the family, the common purpose is around the group becoming a team and the individuals understanding who they are to drive forward. So yeah, a great reference.
Yeah.
Owen Eastwood.
We've had 2 people this week within 2 weeks have little babies. So one who's got his second, but he's now travelling to and from Scotland because his partner lives up there, and driving like 8-hour drives and stuff. And another lad who lives in Portsmouth who's just had his first. So, I think, how do we as a squad, as a group of staff and players, a team, I'm not going to use the word family, but, how do we support him right now? Because he's not getting a lot of sleep, Josh. And he's then got to travel from Portsmouth to mid Sussex to play football, which is an hour and a half, and he might have another hour on if we're playing away. And so yeah, it's but understanding the person is the crucial bit.
So what a brilliant segue. So how have ye as a team and staff and wider group approach this kind of consideration and understanding to get to a point where people know? Now maybe the baby is an easier one, but I've often experienced where you might have to bend the rules and our kind of standards or expectations slightly, maybe not the standards, for some people. And I always find those conversations interesting. And I found over the years observing some managers not wanting to have the conversation, or some leaving it to the players, or, any kind of thoughts on how, or even sharing how you got to that point where everyone understood that if he's maybe off one of the days, or he's tired, or he might miss some stuff.
Yeah. So he's an interesting one. We were talking about him last night, actually, that, he's a real gym bunny. And has a body that makes me think I don't want to stand next to him and feel hugely inadequate. But we were talking about last night, saying, look, leave your gym work. We're not worried. Like he's suddenly not going to lose, what he's got, but spend that time with your partner, with your baby, and just get yourself to training. So the time where you would have done additional gym work, etc., like, don't worry about that for the next few weeks. Focus on being at home and adapting to what new life looks like, but just get yourself to training, because we can be there as a social group around you to support you, and we get the football bits. But it's just doing what's right for people, isn't it? And the squad of us coming together and buying a gift for his partner, and showing that just like, we're here for you, right?
But that, I mean, you're saying it so casually, like that. I've seen firsthand that doesn't happen. So that is amazing. Like, that's amazing that you maybe got together as a staff or as a group of players or with the captain and had a conversation. And then there is the present giving, which I have seen and heard before. But sometimes it's that, and then they go, what about this? And the consideration that they go, well, if you're a healthier, happier human mentally and physically, then we get the best, and you get the best. We get the best of you mentally, and you're happier here, and we might get a few photos, and we might get a happier partner. And then they're coming, I love this game and I want to make an effort, and people, the value, the care and coaching stuff. I love that. Well done. That's really cool.
Cheers.
Yeah, no.
What's been the highlight of your week?
Well, bit of like, shameful self-promotion here now, but the book did come out this week. Well, it's not me. I mean, this is the whole funny part. More. A link below. You know what? Like, how cool is it that 36 contributors, over 20 chapters, put a book together? I mean, yes, we did a little bit of writing and reading, and a lot of reading, but like, both of us had amazing networks and people were really forthcoming. But what I heard through the grapevine, and obviously it was my first experience putting a book together, but I heard that they were grateful for the opportunity to write a chapter on their own, because sometimes in the world of academia, it's, publish, this person, that person must cross and all this. And then other people had come together for the first time to put it together, to put a chapter together. So there was that kind of co-creation and collaboration. The global span of the people who contributed, so we're all corners of the world, and people were very grateful to be given the opportunity, which I assumed that I thought the owners would be like, oh, please, it would be great if you could, we're trying. So yeah, I'm delighted that, we had a conversation just over 12 months ago about the stuff I was hearing on the ground. I'm like, can you believe they're still talking about 10,000 hours? It's like, wait, and she goes, oh, well, the publisher would like to do this. And then all of a sudden you have people going, oh, that's interesting. That's not what I thought about deliberate practice. I need to look at where I'm coming from. And it's not saying that anything in the book is A, set in stone, or B, gold. It's the thought-provoking kind of insight that we wanted to stir up, and some really relevant chapters to all relevant, but current topics that are about different kettle of fish and women in sport and 24/7 job, when people say winding down for Christmas, winding up, resilience over resilient. I know UK Coaching, we did a lot of work with Mustafa Sakar, so him and Jolyn have done a great chapter. So yeah, just delighted that it's there. And yeah, so that's it. That's out.
Amazing.
It's affordable as well. Not from the promotion point of view, but I didn't realize. I mean, obviously, I've gone and bought books from Routledge and the other companies that are quite expensive.
Yeah.
That was the one thing I said to Amy, like, if we're going to aim, well, I mean, it's quite a broad span, but if we're going to aim at either universities or students or coaches, like, let's make it affordable and let's make it digestible on the go, so they can pick and drop it. And that's, I mean, I think it was $17.99 originally. And then he said, oh, we'll keep the 20% on. And now Amazon have done a discount as well. And I thought, how cool is that? That people can buy a book that's like so cheap that you can have so much meat in it. And there's global leaders popping all their bits and pieces research wise and practitioner wise in. So yeah.
Amazing. And where can people find it?
Oh, okay. Oh, the link is below. No. So Amazon's best place. Amazon is the best place. They have a 19% discount. I don't know how they calculate those. Yeah. So that, I think it's $14.50 on Amazon, and that's the best place. Myths of Sport Coaching. Okay. Yeah, that has been really cool, and I did do a little like photo shoot with the book and be like, this is very cool. But really it's the other contributors. So I think in the new year, myself and Amy spoke this week that we'll probably do maybe a chapter a month or a series. We'll obviously, I have to speak to the authors of the chapters to see if they'd be interested, but just some more airtime to stir up. And I know there's some chapters that a lot of people would be really interested in challenging the norms and the lens on. So yeah, thanks.
It is currently sat on the kitchen table.
So well, there was one coming your way, and then I saw Rebecca tweeting, and I was like, how amazing.
She's already bought it.
Yeah, that's really cool. Thanks for the support. So I'm sure we will get a chapter chat in here about that in the new year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, brilliant. And what was the highlight of your week leading into Christmas time? I know you've been super busy recently.
Elf on the Shelf, that's proving quite interesting.
Oh my gosh, you'll have to send me a couple of pictures and I can pop them in here because you're so creative.
It's good because I can just go extreme with this kind of stuff and it's just to amuse myself. So that would be quite interesting. Good meeting with the coaching staff chairman yesterday to look at squad, budget, all of this kind of stuff. Don't know that a coaching course prepares you for this.
Wow.
Which was interesting. Running of the meeting, organisation, discussions, process. Yeah, it was really interesting because we've had a fairly rocky road at the moment, which is fun. But then I would say, this meeting we had yesterday with 30 pathway managers on deselection of athletes, and we had a lad on who I didn't really work with him at Fulham, but I knew him from Fulham. It was a young lad, as a goalkeeper that got released at 18, who then talked about needing therapy, in his words, for 2 years after. But now how he's recognised that the talent pathway has given him resilience, grit, determination, those kind of things that he's now applying to developing a career in music as a grime artist. Well done with the kids.
Wow.
But just interviewing Josh and hearing his views, and then I did an interview with a lad who plays for MK Dons, who's just turned 21. He's just about to play his 50th game this weekend. I coached him when he was like 9, 10. Like in my head, he's still 9 and 10, but he's got like a proper deep voice and he's a man.
Oh God, you're like, what?
But his experiences of control his own career and how he chose to leave a professional football club because the contract was brilliant, but it was going to stop him playing in the positions he wanted to play. So he left and didn't have a club for 6 months.
Wow.
But owning your own career, so the choice to deselect from a talent pathway is not always the club's. Sometimes it's your own.
Oh,
so it was an interesting chat with Matt there as well. That was a highlight. I would say it was fun.
Yeah, that sounds like it would be my highlight too. I haven't even thought of the idea of deselecting yourself or removing yourself. Oh, now that you say it, of course I can pick some examples in my head over time, but that's really cool. Wow, what a cool project. Go you. Right, so New Year will be our next recording. At Coach Convo, Twitter, you can see it below, and coachconversation@gmail.com. You can find us here. If you have some topics or things that are happening in your environment and you'd like us to discuss them or bounce some ideas around, please let us know, and we're happy to engage and bring them on to the topic list. Other than that, have a happy holiday and we will see you in the new year. Yes.
And we promise we will be more regular in 2022.
I loved that hang. I was like, what's he going to say? Yes, no, that is our New Year's resolution. Weekly shows with spoilers coming out, the whole shebang. And we've got a lot of requests in with topics. So yeah, great point. So happy New Year.
Cool.
Happy New Year. Bye.